1. Engines full power. And liftoff.
We begin this week on a launch pad at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. There, private spaceflight company SpaceX launched another batch of 53 satellites to join its Starlink global broadband internet service. The company has thousands of Starlink satellites in orbit. SpaceX says it was the 8th blastoff and landing of this Falcon 9 booster. After completing its mission, the reusable booster landed on the drone ship named Of Course I Still Love You. SpaceX followed that launch days later with this one from Florida's Cape Canaveral. There, the company launched the Falcon Heavy, known as the world's most powerful active rocket, for the first time in 3 years. 3 Falcon 9 boosters strapped side by side form a Falcon Heavy. The 2 side boosters landed back at Cape Canaveral in near-perfect sync. The trip carried U.S. military satellites and was the first Falcon Heavy mission since 2019. Meanwhile, on Mars, NASA's InSight lander, which touched down in 2018, will run out of power and stop work in the next month or two. This, as scientists detailed a massive meteor strike that gouged out parts of the planet's surface. NASA says the high point of this discovery is the presence of water ice near the equator. Water ice is frozen water as opposed to other frozen compounds found in the cold of space.
This is really an exciting result. We know, of course, that there's water ice near the poles on Mars, but in planning for future human exploration of Mars, we'd want to land the astronauts as near to the equator as possible, and having access to ice at these lower latitudes, that ice could be converted into water, oxygen, or hydrogen. That could be really useful.
InSight detected more than 1,300 Marsquakes in its time on the red planet. Once it runs out of power, NASA says it will lose communications with the craft. Also this week, NASA released this eerie image of the Pillars of Creation. This one captured by the James Webb Space Telescope's Mid-Infrared Instrument, or MIRI. Unlike the previous image captured by Webb's NIRCam, the MIRI image filters out existing stars, revealing layers of dust and gas that will eventually form new stars, giving the Pillars of Creation their name. Finally this week, NASA said goodbye to a spaceflight giant. The headquarters building at the agency's Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama, was instrumental in developing and testing the massive Space Launch System, or SLS, rocket that will one day launch the Artemis program to space. Commonly known as Building 4200, it spent about 60 years as the center's base of operations, but renovations were cost prohibitive. And so NASA said goodbye to the building where engineers designed the Saturn V rocket that carried the first humans to the moon. Building 4200 went out with a bang at a controlled implosion Saturday. Arash Arabasadi, VOA News.